Hello there, very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to the weekend edition of Primetime News. We're coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Joel Outskun. Let's start off with a look at our headlines for this evening.
IMF releases second disbursement under the extended fund facility for Sri Lanka. 25 expenditure heads including that of the President and Prime Minister approved with no amendment. Prime Minister calls to raise the wages of the MPs.
තමන්ගේ මැතිවරණ කොට්ටාස වැඩ කටයුතු කරන හැම മന്ത്രിවරයෙක්ටම රුපියල් ලක්ෂයක් දෙන්න කියලා මම කියනවා.
People from Samasara mark 6 months since tragedy struck Aranayaka.
පොත්පත් එහෙම තෙමිලා පෙඟිලා ඔක්කොම ටොයිලට් එහෙම උතුරලා තියෙන්නේ.
අපිට කියන්න තියෙන ඡන්දය ඉල්ලන්න මිනිස්සු වෙනවා මෙතන කෑ ගහන දැන් නම් කවුරුත් වෙන්නේ ඉන්නේ.
6 subcommittee reports submitted to the Constitutional Assembly to prepare the new constitution.
මේකේ තියෙන මූලික කරුණු තුනක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි අවසන් එකඟතාවයන් වලට පැමිණලා නැහැ.
Speaking to reporters today, the Finance Minister made a statement on the IMF announcement.
The endorsement of IMF comes at the most propitious moment because we have been able to demonstrate that financial discipline has come for the first time. And I must say that IMF required 4.7% budget deficit, but we have done 4.6. What is good is done by us. Nobody can dictate to us. We have President and Prime Minister who set the pace. The people have expectation of the promises we give and will comply to this and do it to our best of our ability. That's what we have proven and that's why we have got $162.6 billion US. That is the commitment to show that we are moving towards the correct direction. And there is no linkage between any multilateral lending agencies or anybody to assist.
Wouldn't our nation be in a better position if the country had not lost 1.6 billion rupees due to the alleged bond scam?
Meanwhile, on to another headline making story from Parliament. The committee stage debate of the 2017 debate commenced today. 25 expenditure heads, including that of the President and the Prime Minister, were passed in Parliament without amendments. The following were views expressed during the debate.
I would like to know from the current President as to what the criteria are when operating the President's Fund. 21.9 million rupees has been spent from the fund for the former Prime Minister to obtain medicine. 10.9 million rupees has been spent for former Minister Kehele Ramukwella. Minister John Amaratunga, there is an allocation for you as well. Even Harrison has an allocation. When you were in the opposition, you had allocations as well. A villager has to undergo many hardships to find 175,000 rupees to get a regular heart surgery.
ඉදිරියේදී අනුගමනය කරන අපේක්ෂා කරන ක්‍රියාමාර්ග කවරේද කියලා.
ස්වාධීන රූපවාහිනී සේවය පිළිබඳ පෙත්සම.
The petition against the independent television network has been forwarded to the Bribery Commission. The issues relating to the Trackle Security Commission, the avant-garde reports pertaining to the Velisera Armory, the plantation companies in Chilao and Kurunagala had been sent 2 weeks ago. This will be forwarded to the relevant institutions by the legal section of the Presidential Secretariat.
ඉදිරි සතියේදී අවශ්‍ය ආයතන වලට යොමු කරනව ඇත. 19 වෙනි සංශෝධනයෙන් පස්සේ අපේ ජනාධිපතිතුමා මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේනත් තමන්ගේ බලතලෙන් කොටසක් දුන්නා.
The President gave up a part of his powers through the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. Even though the powers have reduced, the duties have not. The President now has a new task of ensuring national unity. This is a massive step taken after DS Senanayaka in the past. This has become a new task that would create an identity to Sri Lankans. There are Sinhalese extremists, there are Muslim extremists as well as Tamil extremists. We cannot leave room for extremism. We can be from Royal. If we came from Royal, put it up there as well. I agree with what Dinesh Gunawardena said. I believe that the President and the former President would condemn these. Some said that the joint opposition has a connection to Dang. I do not know these things. What I am saying is, they should deny it when the allegations are raised. You cannot play this game here. The media can publish anything they want. If they are trying to boost sales by highlighting such issues, then we will have to take a look at the media separately.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe called for a salary increase for MPs in Parliament today.
The insurance for MPs only covers 200,000 rupees. I believe that it needs to be raised to 500,000 rupees. If not, the work we do with VAT is only limited. I am not even aware if the Mumtaz Mahal or the Speaker's official residence exists.
මුන්ටස් මාල්ලක කතානායකතුමාගේ නිල නිවස. අද ඒක තියෙනවද නැද්දවත් මන් දන්නේ නැහැ. මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි අවධානය යොමු කළා.
We have directed our attention on that. I was informed that it will be given to the army by the Prime Minister. We are prepared to take it over as well.
අපි ඒක බාර ගන්න සූදානම් වෙලා උන්නේ. පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ දේපල එහෙම එක එක තැන් වල take up with the honorable prime minister. මම කියනවා ඔබතුමාගේ බාරකාරය හැටියට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ දේපල පිළිබඳව කරුණා කරලා මේවා අරගෙන මේ අපේ മന്ത്രിවරුන්ගේ යහපතට පාවිච්චි කරන්න. මාත් බොහොම සතුටුයි. ලබා දෙනවා නම් අපිට සූදානම් එක වැඩ කරන්න. ඊළඟට පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ മന്ത്രിවරුන්ගේ නිවාස පිළිබඳව මොකක් හරි මේකට තීරණයක් දෙන්න ඕන. മന്ത്രിවරු රාශියකට අද හරියම නිවාසයක් නැහැ.
මගේ මතේ නම් හුඟක් අය එකඟ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අද
Many would not agree with my opinion. The wages given for the MPs and the ministers is not sufficient. It needs to be increased. If not, it will be difficult to operate. Let's assume that we are living with this payment. But when I go home, my wife is getting paid more than me. That is the situation. I don't mind being yelled at. Once a journalist from the electronic media told me that we are getting all this on merit. Electronic media is also like that. Licenses have been given. In other countries, licenses are being auctioned. This situation has come about because we have done so. They take it on merit and then blame us. The media will attack me on this matter as well. I state that 100,000 rupees should be given to each MP to work for their electorate.
තමන්ගේ මැතිවරණ කොට්ටාස වැඩ කටයුතු කරන හැම മന്ത്രിවරයෙක්ටම රුපියල් ලක්ෂයක් දෙන්න කියලා මම කියනවා.
It has been 6 months since the landslide in the Samsara Hill in Arunachal. However, the lives that collapsed with the landslide continues to be restricted to displaced camps. The people of 3 villages, including Sirapura in Lanka, faced an unexpected tragedy at an unforeseen moment when a landslide occurred on the Samsara Hill in Arunachal on the 17th of May. The people who were displaced continues to live in camps set up in the Arunachal, Vilpula, Ussapatiya, Pamunua, Moragamana and Naramana areas. Our correspondent noted that with the rainwater seeping into campsites, the people living in the camps are facing many health issues.
Water comes in, even the books have got wet. The toilets are overflowing because of the rainwater. People come here shouting when they are asking for votes, but no one comes now. They are not even bothered to know whether we are living or dead. All of this has gone underwater. It is impossible to live here with small children. Lavatories have overflown. There is no electricity. The government doesn't even give us a meal to eat. We have to do all that ourselves.
There was a report in the papers yesterday that the number of dengue patients in Arunachal has increased, but no one from the health ministry visits here. Earlier they used to visit on a daily basis.
I have 3 children. There are many other small children here as well. They all get sick. It is very difficult for us to do our school work. We do the work in the kitchen because the light does not come into the tent.
The displaced persons charged that they did not receive the food coupon which they are supposed to get for the past 3 weeks. Welcome back. You're tuned on to the weekend edition of Primetime News. The reports of 6 subcommittees on the new constitution were presented by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to the Constitutional Assembly, which convened today.
The Constitutional Assembly to formulate the new constitution convened for the first time on the 5th of April in the Parliamentary chamber. At the meeting, a steering committee with 21 members were appointed while Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed as the chair of the committee. The reports of 6 subcommittees appointed by the steering committee were presented to the Constitutional Assembly today. These subcommittees are on the fields of fundamental rights, judiciary, financial law, peace, state administration and relationship between central government and local governments.
The
most democratic method that we could adopt is to consult the Assembly and take appropriate steps. We are forwarding these steering committee reports after seeking these views. We hope to convene once again on the 10th of December.
If this assembly slows down and put a stop to this bulldozer system, they could go in for a public discussion. People are asking what is happening. This cannot be resolved by you shouting. People want to know the content of this constitution. People want to know about these reports.
අපිට 1972 ව්‍යවස්ථාව වෙන්න පුළුවන් 78 ව්‍යවස්ථාව වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
Neither the 1972 constitution nor the 78 constitution took into consideration the consent of the people. A law was passed without the consultation of the public to pass laws that controls the public. It is with this law that constitutions were passed. Since it is not possible to pass this constitution without the approval of the public, it is very important that the needs of the public are taken into consideration broadly. Mr. Speaker, we are of the stance that this will not be successful if attempts are made to approve this through force without consideration for the public views.
We have not reached a final decision with regard to 3 basic points. For example, we have not come to a conclusion with regard to the state of the government, devolution of power and the electoral system.
Eventually, the report of the steering committee in regard to the constitution, it must initially be approved by parliament by a 2/3 majority. After it's approved by parliament by a 2/3 majority, it must be approved by the people at a referendum, because sovereignty is vested in the people, in no one else. Sovereignty of this country in terms of our constitution, which comprises of powers of governance, fundamental rights and the franchise, is vested in the people, and consequently whatever parliament decides by a 2/3 majority, it must be submitted to the people at a referendum. We are firmly of the view that there can be a new constitution for this country only when that constitution is approved by the people at a referendum.
මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කිසිම පක්ෂයකට බහුතරයක් නොතිබීම ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම මේ ව්‍යවස්ථාව සකස් කිරීමේ දෙක අතරින් ශක්තියක්.
The fact that no party has a majority in this parliament is a strength in our efforts in formulating this constitution. We are not making the constitution of the UNP, SLFP or the TNA. Therefore, I would like to state that certain areas such as where the president's power should be redirected to should be decided by the people. The opposition leader said that the approval of the parliament is not enough and that a referendum should be held. If it is held, then the majority singular population will need to approve this constitution.
මේ ව්‍යවස්ථාව මේ රටේ බහුතර ජනතාවයි සිංහල ජනතාවත් අනුමත කරන්න ඕනේ. ඊට වඩා මේකක් අපිට නැහැ.
The Junior National Law Conference, which began yesterday, is underway in Negombo and will conclude tomorrow. News First is the media sponsor for this event.
The event features luminaries and professionals from the Bar Association and addresses subjects of megapolis, witness protection laws and the right to information.
So technology is changing law, and law in fact is changing with technology. This has to go hand in hand. The task that we are engaged in first is to give this country a modern constitution and a new constitution, where the constitution is supreme. The electoral system, we are looking at a mixed member system, very much similar to that in New Zealand. Now, we thought we stay at 200, about 240, 235 to 40 is what we are looking at. And it is 60-40, so that one party or a coalition of groups may be able to get a majority. This includes that the fact that we are going to give a bonus of 6 seats to the largest party in Parliament.
As the Honourable Prime Minister says, he looks to the bar to assist in law reform. He looks to the bar for certain input and guidance in changes, because we are talking of mega development. So for all this we require greater professionalism, greater understanding of our fundamentals, and greater competence, reliability, decency, and above all, to be very good human beings. Because all laws are useless if we don't have a decent democratic society where we respect the basic inherent dignity of every individual, whether they be Sinhalese, Muslims, Burghers, Tamils, it matters not, whatever their religion. If we don't deep down as lawyers have these fundamentals straight, there is no purpose served in having all the best of laws, because we'll have a very undemocratic society where there is no respect for each other, whoever we are.
Back to news from Parliament this evening. Views were expressed regarding independent commissions.
Speaker, what does the Public Service Commission hope to do? What is happening at present? The Secretary of the Commission has an allegation against him for financial fraud. Information has come to light through the committee that investigated on the avant-garde matter that the Additional Secretary at the State Ministry of Defence at the time received 100,000 rupees monthly as a bribe. But how did the Public Service Commission act? They appointed her to the post of Additional Secretary at the Ministry of Home Affairs and was sent on retirement. The Minister of Home Affairs was also involved in the matter. She retired and left the country. Now, Speaker, they have gone to court and asked for writ notification to bring her back to the country.
Red notice නිකුත් කරන්න කියලා. The අතේ ඉන්න කිරිල්ල අත්තරලා. ඌලකේ ඉන්නකොට මගේ අතරේ.
She was appointed as the additional secretary to my ministry when she was in the administration pool. She has not been forced to retire, nor is she receiving retirement benefits. Her arrival and departure was carried out without a connection to the ministry. At that time, she had no allegations against her.
කිසිම චෝදනාවක් එල්ල වෙලා තිබුණේ නැහැ. මා ඉතා පැහැදිලිව කියන්න ඔබතුමාට.
I am stating very clearly she had an allegation against her at the time as well. She was called in to obtain statements. After that, she was appointed to the post of Additional Secretary at your ministry. Deputy Minister of Tourism, Promotion and Christian Affairs, Arundika Fernando, bought 2 jeeps for his ministry, valued at 52 million rupees. The chief accountant was transferred because he did not approve the payment, saying that the ministry secretary has carried out the transaction in a fraudulent manner. If the people who rejected these are given transfers, what is happening at present? The situation at the Police Commission is not different from what is happening at the Public Service Commission. Even though the enrollments and the promotions lie with the Commission, they are carried out based on the instructions of the Ministry of Law and Order. A list of names has been forwarded to the Cabinet of Ministers to receive promotions. I have this list. People who were subject to political vengeance have informed the Public Services Commission regarding the matter. The list was sent to the 3-member committee appointed by the Cabinet. There were 2 additional secretaries there. Those 3 individuals executed this task. There were no political representatives there. All the appeals came to Sirikota first. I state responsibly that some of these cases are not related to any acts of political vengeance. Some are people who were involved in disciplinary issues. Saman Dissanayaka, who is a director at the Police Commission, was a person who provided illegal recommendations with regard to the avant-garde matter as a senior secretary at the Ministry of Defence under Mahinda Rajapaksa. This same person has been appointed as a director at the Police Commission.
The Police Commission අධ්‍යක්ෂවරයෙකුට පත් වෙනවා. කොහොමද මේ වෙන්නේ? අධිකරණයක් ස්වාධීන වූ පමණින් යුක්තිය ඊට නොවන බව.
We can see from the recent examples that just because the judiciary is independent, justice won't be served. For example, when a person who has allegedly misused state funds is confined to prison for months or years by court, this same court grants bail to people who defrauded billions in a very short time. There's a clear question on the unbiased nature of the court when such things take place.
ඒ අධිකරණයේ අපක්ෂපාතීත්වය පිළිබඳව පැහැදිලි ප්‍රශ්නාර්ථයක් අප වෙත නැගෙනවා.
And while speaking in Parliament today, EPDP parliamentarian Douglas Devananda expressed these views on the National Police Commission.
A National Police Commission has been appointed. However, it is not clear whether transfers and propositions of police officials are carried out through this commission. There are allegations of political influence in this procedure. The true nature of this situation needs to be cleared. Establishment of the Police Commission is mandatory with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. Police officers who can carry out their duties in languages used in different areas must be employed.
Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayaka commented on the manner in which the law was implemented and is being implemented. We witnessed murders in the past. Then there's the chairman of Hiru TV and Duminda Silva attached to that. Telangu Sumitipala is well aware of this incident. You are the deputy speaker. You are the organizer of the Borale electorate. You are aware of the incident that took place on this specific date. Please grant me 1 minute to speak on this. 4 persons were murdered in the middle of the road. They were not remanded for even a minute. Back then he was flown to the Mount Elizabeth Hospital in Singapore in a medical flight. Many did not speak on the matter, fearing that they will not be given any airtime on the channel for the fear of not coming to power. for the fear of losing things. This included the leadership of the JVP as well. They did not speak because of the fear of losing publicity. I have no such issue. The people thought that these persons will never be sentenced to prison and the law will not be implemented. Once this government came into power, those aspirations materialized. Allow me to say one more thing. This government has filed 26 indictments against Hirunika, who abducted an individual in a defender. She is the one who filed that very complaint.
චෝදනා 26ක් අධි චෝදනා 26ක් දානවා ඩිෆෙන්ඩර් එකකින් අරන් ගිහිල්ලා කෙනෙක්ව පැහැර.
The 59th session of the Committee Against Torture of the United Nations is being held from the 7th of November to the 7th of December. The Sri Lankan delegation presented a report on torture at the committee meeting.
The Committee Against Torture is the body of 10 independent experts that monitors implementation of the Convention Against Torture and other cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment by its state parties. The Sri Lankan delegation was headed by Attorney General Jayantha Jayasuriya, and the members included DIG Ajit Rohana representing the legal division of the police, Sisira Mendis, Chief of National Intelligence from the Ministry of Defence, and several others. The committee has requested the Sri Lankan delegation to provide answers to several torture-related incidents in the country, such as the alleged attacks against journalist Poddala Jayantha, Lasantha Vikramatunga and J.S. Thisanayagam, as well as against lawyer J.C. Valyamuna. The Sri Lankan delegation, in its 31-page answer, has provided the progress of the above investigations. Several members of the committee raised questions from the Sri Lankan delegation.
One general question put, and it was quoted again during your replies, the directive of the National Human Rights Commission to those responsible for security, the army and other public officials, as well as the declarations made by the highest authority of the state that torture is forbidden. Fine, but what I would like to know, what happens now in practice after these declarations. How many cases you had punished according to the law?
Here the situation is where the investigations had been completed and the accused have been charged in different high courts. So this is not a situation where the investigations is either on or after the investigation, the matter is referred to the Attorney General. Now here, I think in few other questions also I noticed, or perhaps it may be prudent to make it a little more clearer, the role of the Attorney General as against the role of the Attorney General in certain other jurisdictions. The Attorney General does not have investigative powers. So the Attorney General's role is basically going through the material and then take a decision whether there is material to forward charges to court.
Minister of Law and Order Sagal Ratnayaka says that the evidence pertaining to the murders of journalists and attacks on media institutions that were carried out during the previous government have been destroyed. The minister made this statement in response to a question raised by JVP MP Nalinda Jatissa.
Details pertaining to murders of journalists. There are 13 on that list. There are journalists who disappeared, including Pradeep Ranjanik Naligoda. There are 87 names of journalists who were assaulted. There are 20 journalists who have been arrested. There are 5. Lanka E-News, Sirasa, was attacked twice. Daily Mirror was attacked once. Sieta is the other one. In most of these cases, the files had been made classified. Several cases were taken up again and investigations are being carried out. Evidence pertaining to these have been destroyed. Ministers of the government took part in these assaults in public sometimes. If these people are not punished, the governments that are to come can also use this.
තියෙන්නේ සාක්ෂි විනාශ කිරීම උඩ ඒක නැවත ගොඩනගාගෙන හොයාගෙන එන්න තියෙන අමාරුව.
රජයේ නිලධාරීන් සහ දේශපාලකයන් තමයි විනාශ කරන්න ඇත්තේ.
සාක්ෂි විනා
We have filed cases against those who destroyed the evidence as well. There are officials in remand custody.
සමහර චෝදිතයන් වෙනුවෙන් රජයේ මුදල් වියදම්
Some of the accused are provided with legal advice using state funds. You know that in the Eknoligado case, the accused has been provided with legal advice using state funds.
වියදම් වෙන්නේ රජයේ මුදල්.
මම ඒ සම්බන්ධව
ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමා
ඔයලා බලන්න.